Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, this is Robert Smigel coming to you today with Canada's podcast, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen here in British Columbia. Since 2004, Colin has helped hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs and their families make lasting changes in their personal and professional lives. He's been privileged enough to speak on Tony Robbins' stage, to present with Jack Canfield, John Assaraf, Joe Dispenza, Les Brown, and countless other global thought leaders. He's a 4-time best-selling author and business mentor with a proven track record of personally building profitable companies from the ground up. Well, Colin, welcome to Canada's podcast. Thanks for taking the time today to be here for all our listeners.
Robert, thank you. Thanks a million as well. And to all those listening, I'm glad you're here as well. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, and I know Colin very well, so I'm encouraging you to listen very carefully. He's got a lot to say and a lot to talk about, and I think our listeners will learn a lot from him today. So we'll get started, and I want you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you're from South Africa. Give us the details on your current business.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert. Yeah, so originally from South Africa, arrived here in 98, and that's where we got to meet soon after I arrived in Canada, yeah. Robert, so that was really interesting for me. So yeah, I arrived in Canada, started with a company. Within 2.5 years, took that company over and just continued to grow that company and take it to the next level. And eventually just decided, number one, family became the most important thing for me. And I was traveling extensively, sometimes up to 11 months of the year I was gone. And I just said, I wanted a change. So that's when I decided to move on from that company in end of 2004 and started my own ventures. Right now I'm in multiple ventures. I've been in my own business here in Canada since the end of 2004 and have been in so many different things, personal growth, the personal growth industry, selling services, but also in products. I'm in a lot of product-based businesses right now. I consider myself to be, like a mini version of Dragon's Den, with a number of companies that we own, have ownership in. And most of the work I do, Robert, has been around coaching business owners and mentoring them. And I like the word mentoring because mentoring means you've actually done it before and you know what it takes to get to that next level. And I just love mentoring companies. And I started to realize I'm helping companies grow from sometimes 5 figures to multiple 6 into 7, sometimes 8 and 9 figure businesses. And I was like, I've got to take some ownership here in some of these companies and get an equity role. And that's what I started doing. And that has worked out really well for me. And a lot of it's happened in the last, 12 to 18 months.
Okay. So did you need financing to start this company? And how do you currently make money in your business now? I imagine there's a few ways that, multiple streams of income coming in. But what is this, how that start? You got financing and then kind of take it from there.
Yeah, Robert. So for me, I've always financed my own businesses. So pretty much financed my own. And then as we grow and we require inventory or require any kind of bridge funding or what have you to get us to that next level, then we involve our financing partners, whether it be tier 1 banks or whatever, or even to tier 2 or tier 3. So I'm always about taking it to the next level. And I hope people that listen really realize this. It's not always about putting your own money in your company. Sometimes you have to take some of the risk off the table and mitigate that risk by getting money from the bank or from BDC or EDC or whichever one of the providers out there. And one thing changed a lot for me over the last 12 months, Robert, where I was thinking a lot about how do I, people ask me, how do I make money in my current business? Well, through mentoring other businesses. But the biggest thing that became a big highlight for me over the last 12 months is looking at how do I take what I'm doing in different companies and create monthly recurring revenue? Because I'm all about the passive income stream, and I trust the listeners and viewers will really take this and look at it differently because we're always about how do I make money? And most business owners live from sale to sale to sale, and they're always hunting for the next piece of business. I'm along the lines of how do I keep clients with me long-term and serve them long-term, but create a monthly recurring revenue stream so that you're not always running around hunting, but you're really focused on growing your monthly recurring revenue or passive income, as people may call it, but really looking at how can you do that in all industries. And I've done it across the line now with so many companies. A lot of my companies I have royalties from, so those royalties become passive income every month. And of course, in my current company with my own Make Your Mark. Make Your Mark's primary function of Make Your Mark is to help business owners grow. And that comes through on a monthly revenue stream as well, whether they be with us for 12 months, 12 weeks, 12 months, 12 years, it doesn't really matter. Our goal is always, how do you keep on building your monthly recurring revenue stream? And I trust that will be your first nugget for everyone listening today. Stop living from sale to sale. Think, how can I convert it into something that becomes recurring, that really keeps your business growing? Because monthly recurring revenue makes your business very valuable.
Okay, I want you to give me a key piece of knowledge or information about your industry or industries that you work in that our listeners can learn from. So is there something that the common person may not know about in the coaching aspect or building businesses that you could convey to them?
Wow, interesting. Really interesting. So let's talk about coaching and mentoring. So for me in coaching and mentoring, it's really starting to look at how to do things differently. So many coaches out there, many people busy mentoring, what have you, is to look at your role differently. If you're helping so many people, and there might be other people that are mentoring in different areas, energy healing and different pieces, whatever it might be, is ask yourself, how can I mentor, but how do I take a piece of the action? So Robert, I said it earlier, the key piece for me here is really getting people to focus on what I do today as not just what I do today, but what does it generate me long term? So when it comes to mentoring, taking equity roles in the companies you mentor, taking having royalties with the companies. Some of the companies we have a 10% royalty every month, and this becomes substantial when you start to hit multiple six figures a month in revenue.
So when you're in mentoring or you're in coaching, it's best to get a chunk of the business, I guess is what you're trying to say, get a good portion of that for your own company.
Correct. So I'm sure there's a question out there. How do you do that? Do you invest money to get a piece of the equity? I don't invest money in I normally do sweat equity. So I get a piece of the business for putting in my time, effort, and energy into the company. At the same time, I watch what they're doing. And then from there, I might finance the company as well. So finance any inventory or put in a bridge loan to get the company through a certain time. I look at that afterwards, but upfront, it's typically, I wouldn't say a chunk. It's a big, anything from 25% to 35% is typically our average that we would take ownership in. But the big piece for me is helping those companies grow, because most of the business owners are all about how do I have this big pie, and they limp along for ages, as opposed to someone coming in and saying, let me take over a piece, come in and watch what you're doing, really support you, and then finance them to the growth that they need to go to. And simple stuff. Like we had a client who's been with us, and we're now partners with them, who've been with us, let's say 14 months. They were doing $4,000 a month, a micro business. December, we did $107,000 for the month of December. January, we're north of $100,000 again. Why? Because we know what we're doing. We know what it takes to get there. So they are super happy. In fact, I just had a call with them today, and they said to me, Colin, we want you to be more involved in the business because we see how much growth we've had since you joined us 14 months ago. So sometimes the big nugget, I think, Robert, for a lot of people is everyone wants to hold on to every piece of their business. Why don't you find someone that can help you grow and be the steroids for your business, or be the catalyst to getting somewhere quicker than waiting for you to keep on doing the same old and growing slowly?
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Vancouver. We learned about you, your company, but we want to talk about why you're doing business and living in British Columbia, Canada. What are the biggest benefits for you and being an entrepreneur in Vancouver, British Columbia? I want you to give us some of the good points about starting a company here, but I also want you to give us some of the tough things or challenges you've had over the years for our listeners so they can keep an eye out for them.
Thank you, Robert. So, if I had to joke with all the listeners, to me, Vancouver is Canada. So, and no disrespect to anyone else who's listening. For me, Vancouver has so much opportunity. Arriving in Vancouver, number one, I came to a job when I first arrived in Canada. So, the job was in Port Kells in British Columbia. And that got me based in BC. And then I started to travel a little bit, and I realized I love British Columbia. I love the people. I love doing business here is, I'd say, easy in some ways. Some of the challenging parts of doing business here is some people take a lot longer to be convinced about the value you bring to the party. I've seen that a lot. You go to Alberta, people make decisions really quickly. Like, done, let's make a decision, let's move on. I've seen that in Ontario as well too. In what I've found here is it's great dealing with people here locally, but I find the business is a lot slower and the behavior is quite different. And I think each of the provinces across Canada have their own unique culture that will impact your business in some ways in positive ways, other ways, I wouldn't say negative, but more challenging to get through. So that's what I found over the time. And of course, I love being here because I love the weather, I love living close to the beach, and I love the ocean. I'm an animal lover, so that's why I'm based here more than being based anywhere else.
Okay. Now, I want you to imagine that you just moved here from South Africa. Take yourself back into a time warp. If you were to start all over again and you just moved here to Vancouver, British Columbia, but this time you don't know anyone, knowing what you know now, what would you do and how would you go about starting all over again as an entrepreneur?
Wow! If I had the wisdom and knowledge that I have now, and it was
you
20
have it
years
all
ago,
now. You're driving down Oak Street. You just got off the plane. You're just thinking to myself, okay, I want to start a business. How would you go about doing it all over again? Or what would you do differently? What would you do differently?
Well, I mean, there's so much technology available to us now that wasn't available 20 years ago. So, the thing for me would be, with the wisdom and knowledge I have now, I would be really focused on, first of all, understanding cash flow, putting really good cash flow together, but more so anything, looking at how quickly can I get my name out there through different sources? So like Canada Podcast, or there's so many different online forums, social media. So I would go probably super crazy out into the marketplace, but through lots of online channels, meetups, podcasts, what have you, to get my name out there and build as quickly as I could. And I'd have a very set plan together. My one thing, Robert, that I watch and I get so frustrated with, and as I watch business owners, is many business owners are taught, go build a business plan. I'm a fan of build a cash flow first to see that your products or service are priced correctly, because that's one of the first thing I build. And then from there, I'd build the plan around that. So I didn't know this 20 years ago. So it'd often be like, I'm going to go out and start selling my wares or selling my products or services. And you don't realize that your client acquisition cost is greater than what you bring in for every client. And you're like, why am I upside down financially? Why is my pricing not working for me? Why has my bank account got no money in it? It's because you didn't do a cash flow in the beginning to understand if your prices were even, what's the right wording? If your prices were even amenable for you to even making money in your business. So therefore, I build out a cash flow first. From there, I build the plan around the cash flow. The cash flow dictates my plan. And I would do that. I would run with it. And honestly, for me, Robert, making money is not a complicated thing. It's really getting the structure in place, that foundation in place, but knowing that when you pull the trigger to run, that you've got a really well-defined cash flow that dictates to your plan, and that plan is something that's going to make you money. And most for some of the business I started years and years ago, decades ago, I didn't really have an understanding of, was it actually going to truly make me money? It sounded like a great idea, but lots of times, and for many people listening, you undercharge for what you are worth. And I see that a lot as well.
Dragon's Den and Canada's Podcast have partnered to find 3 golden ticket 60-second elevator video pitches. The best 3 elevator pitches will get a golden ticket to audition to the Dragon's Den producers. Get your golden ticket to Dragon's Den today by uploading your 60-second video pitch to our entry page at canadaspodcast.com/Dragon's Den.
Let's talk about your routines and what motivates you on a daily basis. What does the first hour look like for you when you get up in the morning? Do you have a specific routine or ritual that helps you get motivated to start your day?
Very much so, Robert. I mean, I have routines in the morning and the evenings. So the morning, I wake up typically, anything from 4:30 to 5:30 every morning. And once I wake up, I come straight out into my living room. I have a very set routine. I do around 45 minutes of meditation, visualization, gratitudes, and then I have a special journaling process that I do called Awaken Your Brilliant Results System. I do that every morning. That takes me it's a total time-wise about an hour. And then I have my bulletproof coffee, and then I often will sit on the couch and just think about the day and where we're going. Often, if it's a summertime, sit on the patio. So the first hour to hour and a half of every day, I don't touch an email. I don't check my phone. I'm not on Facebook or any of that kind of stuff. I am focused on serving myself. And that sets up an amazing, amazing day for me every single day. And then at the end, I bookend at the end of the day with a process I do in the evening around, it's a small amount of meditation. I look back on the day and I look at my successes and what I'm grateful for the day. I look at what I could have done better in the day and what I really found so super awesome for the day, and even any kind of miracles that came into my day. I note them down, and then I sleep on that. That's the last thing I do before I go to bed, before I go to sleep. And I do that every single day, 7 days a week, no weekends off, holidays off, or anything like that. Habits are habits. You don't do them 5 days a week. You do them 7 days a week, and you never stop doing them.
Okay, you've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs and you've got a long history of that. Do you think entrepreneurs have to be weird or unique in a positive way, or wired differently?
So, there's so many different versions of entrepreneurs. You got your big dreamers that just run out there and dream, and hopefully they find someone to help support them get to where they want to get to. Because a lot of times, I often say, Robert, God had a sixth sense of humor when he made entrepreneurs. It was like, you have to be super creative to be a great entrepreneur, but the only way you ever become successful is when you're super focused. I'd always say a focused entrepreneur is like an oxymoron. So I think, I'm not saying you have to be weird. You have to be extremely driven though. And you have to be tenacious. For me, I watch entrepreneurs and the business owners that I've worked with. Yes, there's different personalities. Some are type A's, some are more quieter, calmer personalities. But the one common thing I find in all of them, nothing knocks them off. So when something does knock them off the rails, they get back on, and they consistently do that because they're resilient. I find that too many times, business owners get knocked off the rails and then they change business. 3 months later, they get knocked off the rails again, they change business again. It's not about changing business. Sometimes consistent work at the same thing brings you results, even if you're not the smartest person. And that's why I find a lot of entrepreneurs are bouncing between different careers, different business opportunities. And I don't invest in any companies that haven't been around for at least 2 years. Because if they've been around for a short period of time, I'm like, what are you going to be doing next week? What are you going to be doing the week after? Are you going to be committed to this business? Because I can tell you one thing, punches get thrown at you all the time. Entrepreneurship is honestly, it's like being in the boxing ring with Mike Tyson. It's about
it's
the
a contact sport.
Oh my goodness, man. And if everyone thinks this whole pandemic thing is gone, it will be gone. But one thing that's going to happen in the future is only another thing around the corner. It's like being a gazelle out in the safari park. You're busy grazing, you smell a lion, you run like crazy, and you pray that you're not the slowest gazelle. The same thing happens in entrepreneurship. What happened, we are busy grazing, a lion comes, we can call that pandemic, we can call it economy, call it whatever. Once that's gone, there's another lion around the corner waiting to jump on your butt and, take you down. And entrepreneurship honestly takes I believe, a very special kind of person, because it's Robert, there's no discussion. Anyone who is on this call that says entrepreneurship's easy, I would challenge you on that. I don't want to say it's not easy. I want to say that it takes work to be a fantastic entrepreneur. Remember, 88% of businesses never make more than $100,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
Only 2% ever get to $1 million and above.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about things that are a little bit esoteric. If you were doing what you do now, what would you like to do for a profession? You would change gears and say, okay, Colin, you're not going to do anything you're doing, something completely different that you could go, okay, I could do this for a living.
You know what? You'd probably be quite amazed, because it's completely opposite to what people know my personality to be. So if someone said you cannot do entrepreneurship, you cannot coach business, you cannot do whatever, then I would be in a safari park as a game warden, looking after the animals, helping the animals, managing culls, and making sure that the species are around for my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and long beyond that. Because I think there's so much happening in the world right now where we're not looking after the animals. So I'd probably spend all my time just with the animals.
What kind of a job would you not like to do? Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it? That's a super interesting. Probably anything with blood and guts. Seriously.
Okay.
Doctor, surgeon, whatever. It'd probably be the worst thing for me to do.
In business, what is your favorite word, quote, or sentence that you like to use on a daily basis? Is there anything that you find yourself saying to your staff or people you work with?
Well, I mean, I live by the statement, your actions dictate your results. So for me, that's one thing I'd be using. Also use everything's happening for us, not to us. So, if something happens and you're upset by something or what have you, it's happening for you. It's not to you. So I live by that statement too every single day. I slip and fall. I'm like, this is happening for me. What was I thinking about that I shouldn't have been thinking about? Was I thinking ill of somebody or a situation? So that's a big one for me, Robert. And I live by the other one is, if you spend your life keeping other people happy, you'll only be as happy as other people allow you to be.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. What's your least favorite word or sentence you do not like to hear? Is there something that comes across your desk that, I just hate when people say that?
I don't think there would be any statement. I just don't like it when people are disgusting or have disparaging comments about their customers. Like, that customer is such an idiot, or they put the phone down and like, why do we deal with such idiots or whatever? I'm like, wow, without that person, you have no business. Like, honestly, don't take the client on if you cannot, don't take the client on if you don't like the client before you even start. But don't take them on and then say disparaging things about them. I really dislike it when people talk about their customers in a negative way, whatever that statement might be. And I've seen companies fold because they just don't talk great about their customers. And eventually customers get to hear about it. And they're like, wow, we should never have really gone down that path. Because I believe in what you put out is what you get back. So if you're putting out negative things about your customers, guess what happens? It's only a matter of time before that ticking time bomb explodes in your hands.
Is there anything keeping you up at night these days? I know you imagine you just go to bed early, you get up early. Is there anything that keeps you up or bothers you, or do you just turn it all off at night when you go to bed?
That's my wife. My wife keeps me up. She bothers me. Only kidding. Only kidding. No. So jokes aside, no, man. I am very, very blessed. Something I also want to share with the listeners today is that one thing I live by is stress is stuff you make up about stuff. Yet it kills most people on this planet. And I'm saddened by that. So I don't really get stressed, Robert. I have a very set plan. I'm organized. When I go to bed at night, I typically go to bed at 9:30 at night. I get up early. I sleep really well. I live by my little Aura ring, which is one of my favorite things. It's a Bluetooth ring that monitors my sleep and all the different things about how I do things. I don't really I'm not stressed by stuff. In fact, I'm so excited by stuff that I wake up earlier than I should wake up. I'm the opposite. I don't get stressed. I get too excited about things that wakes me up, and I get up earlier to go and get the stuff done, to go and really serve other people and help them.
Good. Okay. Do you have any advice that you may have received from someone else that you can pass on to entrepreneurs throughout Canada?
It happened to me. Yeah, absolutely. It happened to me recently. I was actually just chatting to one of our team in the office, and I was like, the one thing always to surround yourself with is people that help you think bigger. It's been a game changer for me to, often we surround ourselves with like-minded entrepreneurs who might push us a little bit, and I help a lot of people, Robert. I've helped a lot of people over the years, entrepreneurs, but I didn't have a lot of high-level entrepreneurs around me that are, billionaires and beyond that level that have run billion-dollar companies. So I met a gentleman in December who really pushed my comfort zone on thinking bigger. So Colin, he even said it to me, Robert. He said, Colin, why don't you think bigger? And first of all, I just take a gulp and swallow and go like, okay, this is happening for me. And it really challenged me. And it's probably been the best decision, the best thing I've ever done, because his expansive thinking has got me thinking so differently in so many areas of my life. So my advice to any listeners today, Robert, would be thinking about who is there that's challenging you to the next level. Because if you're comfortable in your business right now, you're not pushing hard enough. Like, it's already about thinking how to get to that next level. And the other piece that I'd love to maybe share as well, Robert, is a lot of times we get stuck in companies that we've been part of for a lot of years, like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, some business owners, some entrepreneurs. Often I believe we get blinkered into that industry. We always keep on thinking, how do I expand in the industry I'm in, as opposed to how do I expand outside of my industry? So I sometimes think we get blinkered by the industry. And when we think outside of that industry, we could be the next Elon Musk. We could be the next Richard Branson, whatever it wants to be, Oprah, whatever it might be. My question to anyone listening today, make sure you write it down for yourself. Write down 3 people that are challenging you, or find 3 people that can challenge you to think bigger. Because when you think bigger, that's when things really shift for you in your own life. Because I always believe you should, I think Richard Branson says it the best way. You don't have to be you should never be the smartest person in the room. And I love it. When Mike said that to me the other night, or in December, Colin, you should think bigger, or he actually said to me, you think too small. I was like mind blown. And then I processed, and the results from it, Robert, been crazy, absolutely off the charts crazy.
So you're saying it's a mindset thing?
I think it's a mind, and it's actually, I think it's a mind that's become set, because you're stuck in a certain way of doing things. You need someone to shift your mindset to that next level. So I agree, it is a mindset thing, but I think sometimes our minds become set in a certain way that's all we're used to. We used to be in this industry. So for me, I'm always thinking, how do I expand my mentoring and coaching business? How do I go to the next level there, as opposed to how do I start a hotel chain in Asia? That's what Mike challenged me on. It's like, Colin, what about doing something completely different? Let's do this together. Let's have some fun together. And I'm like, wow, that's completely outside of my industry. So is it a mindset? For sure. But sometimes I think we all have a set mind in the certain industries we're in, because we've been doing it for so long. We don't think outside of that industry.
Okay, good. We're going to wrap things up. How can our listeners get hold of you? And is there anything you'd like to add before you leave us today?
Yeah, with pleasure. So easiest way to get hold of me is to connect with me directly via email, which is colins@mymsuccess.com. So it's colins@mymsuccess.com. That's the easiest way to get hold of me. You can visit one of if you're a husband and wife in business together, which is what I specialize in, you can go to powermentorship.com. And one of the key things I'd love to leave everyone with today, Robert, I live by the principle of what is your freedom plan. And this I wish I'd learned a long time ago as well, is we get so focused as business owners and entrepreneurs on what's your plan, grow your business, cash flow, all that kind of stuff. So that's your business plan. The other side of it is, what's your life plan? The two of those come together for your freedom plan. And so sadly, so many business owners are so focused on making money, growing a business, that they forget about their family. To me, without family, which is the foundation of a great business and an amazing foundation to grow from, what is it all about then? It's not just about making money. So my suggestion to everybody, make sure you put together a freedom plan, which is most of you have some kind of business plan or cash flow, but what's your life plan? Because that's important. Where do you want to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now, in your life, with your family, with your spouse, whatever it might be, for your children? Where do you want to be? Because without those, my life will be pretty empty. I can tell you that.
Awesome. Good, great words of advice there. Well, Colin, thank you for coming on the show. I've learned a lot about you, and I'm sure our listeners have as well. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's been my pleasure as well. And thank you all for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you.